Hey, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video, and in this video we're going to talk about Remotion. So Remotion is a library with which you can write videos in React. Yes, you can actually write React components, you can animate them, and that actually exports as an MP4 file, which is pretty cool. So before we kind of go ahead and take a deep dive into the code and how does it work, I just wanted to give a brief overview of how actually the whole process works. So this is a very high level overview. This is not exactly representative of how things happen inside of the library. So you use React to render React components, of course, but then you use Puppeteer. So Puppeteer, as you might know, is a Node.js library which is based on Chrome engine, with which a lot of testing can be done, like a visual testing can be done. You basically take a React component, render it in a headless Puppeteer instance. You take screenshots depending upon the frame rate that is defined in the file, and then you save those screenshots and you stitch them together with FFmpeg to create a video. So this is a very high level view of how Remotion creates videos. So with that info, I think we can get started with the code. So to actually start a project with Remotion, you need this command. It's npm init video. You just have to run this npm init command and it automatically knows that you're trying to set up a Remotion product. My structure would look a bit different from what you would get because I've added certain things here. So your structure would look similar to what is in my comms folder. I mean, the audio visualizer and the styles would not be there, but you would see an index.tsx, the video.tsx file. So let's just take a look at what do we have. So we have index.tsx, whose contents are open here, and so this might look similar to what Create React tab does, because there you also use React DOM where you register a root where basically all the React components are loaded inside of it. But here you get a register root method, which is again imported from the Remotion package, and you pass in a Remotion video. Now a Remotion video is actually a functional React component which consists of compositions. Right, so here I just have one composition. You can have multiple of these compositions, one after each other, right? So you can have multiple of these compositions, right? And you can think of compositions like a scene, right? So you can have one composition which uses multiple compositions inside of it, or you can just have like separate compositions, and it takes in an ID. So this is very important. This is what you need when you are rendering something with Remotion. It also takes in a component, which is something that it renders. So whatever you pass in here will be rendered inside of the scene. So it takes in duration in frames, and this is a function that I have wrote, but here you need to pass in the actual frame count. And below here you have the FPS, which is can be 30, 60, whatever you want. You define the width and the height of the video. So I'm 1920 by 1080. You can also pass in default props, which might not go into it in this video, but if you're interested, do let me know, and I'll take a deeper dive into this. So this is basically the composition component, pretty simple. Now let's take a look at the component that we pass. So this is audio.gg, whatever, and I have actually put it here. So this is where it's exported. And this is just a simple React component, right? So I'm using Chakra with it. You can pretty much use any styling library. I think I've seen a bunch of people use Tailwind. I have seen a bunch of people use Chakra. I basically like Chakra because it's pretty clean, and I'm pretty much used to it. I guess I use it in almost every project that I make. So here I'm using Chakra. Code wise, I think it's just like what you would expect a React component to look like. So this supports hooks, React hooks. So you have a functional component called audio.gg. This takes in a prop, which we'll get into I think at the later part of the video. This is also a important hook. This is pretty much the most important hook in the whole library, which is use current frame. So the use current frame hook actually returns you the exact frame number for which the component is being re-rendered, right? So this starts from 0 till the number of frames that you have in your animation, right? So if you have, say, a 60-second 60 FPS video, then it will have 3600 frames, right? So this value of frame will go from 0 to 3600, right? So this is use video config, which is FPS and duration in frames. I'm using audio data, so this is also a very interesting hook. So with Remotion, what you can do is you can actually use audio inside of your React component. What you can do with audio is you can create an audio visualization using the use audio data and the visualize audio function. So this is what I'm using here. So this is use audio data. You pass in the audio file. It gives you the audio data. These are the things that you need to pass to the visualization function, and this will give you FPS. So here you have to pass the FPS, the frame which you get from use current frame, the audio data, which is actually the audio, and the number of samples. So this is basically the number of bars that you would get. So currently it is 64. You can change it to, I think this is in exponents of 2. So it goes from 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, I guess. Doesn't go after that, but I'm not 100% sure on that. And we use the visualization component as a value to map over, and then we just return a bunch of divs, and the V would give me the actual value for that particular peak in my audio. When I show you the animation, I think it will be much more clear. So this is what we use the visualization for. So this is something that Remotion gives you out of the box. There is also this Interpolate Property function, which I have written, so this doesn't come with Remotion, and that is one of the problems that I have with the library, that you have to write a lot of code, repeated code, to do very, very small things, right? So if I want to make a title fade in, and I want to move it, like maybe X translation or Y translation, I have to write a lot of code to do that, right? So I have a title Y translate and a title fade in. Also, I have like an author Y translate and author fade in, and the difference between them is not with the values, but I think in the frames that it starts with, right? So that's one of the problems that I have with the library. I feel there could be a couple of helper methods that could be written to make this much more manageable. Now I actually want to talk about one specific thing, and that is the sequence component, right? So this is actually a pretty handy component. So what this does is basically it renders whatever is inside of it from a particular frame, right? So you say from, so when I pass in 60, this means whatever this is will start to appear on the screen after 60 frames have passed, right? And also this is also one of the key props that I found that you need to pass, which is layout none. So if you remove this, this will be positioned absolutely and all your layout will be broken, right? So you pass in layout none, so it respects whatever Chakra has defined, and then things appear in order. We might want to take a look at the interpolate property. So this is a custom function that I've written, where it takes in a frame range, and a property range. So this is an interpolate function which Remotion gives you. There is also an easing function that Remotion gives you. So it defines how the easing function defines how the animation would play. So is it linear? Is it eases out? If it eases in, or if it eases on and eases in, right? A combination of all of those things, right? So this is a service. So this is basically a custom function that I had written to ease all of my animations, right? So this is interpolate frame range and range property. So if you want to take a look, I can actually just show that really quick. So if you look at this call here, so interpolate the frame which I need, which is, and then I say between 60 to 90. So this is basically 60 frames to 90 frames. So that is I guess 30 frames. So that is, I think, half a second. The value of Y should go from 0 pixel to 20 pixel. So this is what the meaning of this is, right? And basically the fade in will take in opacity from 0 to 1. You take this value and you actually use it to style it, right? So opacity, so on each frame render, the opacity will be equal to what the function title fade in returns, right? Similarly, transform will be equal to translate Y, and whatever title Y translate. This is how you can do animations. I know I'm rushing through a lot of these things because there is a lot to talk about. If you want to see like a detailed video on how do you actually animate stuff, I'd be more than happy to do that. This is all cool, but how do you render stuff? So first let's take a look at the inbuilt viewer, I would say, a preview component. This is basically my composition. So the visualize, remember the composition ID that you passed in, visualize, this is what is here. So this is composition list. So if I have multiple of these compositions, will appear over here. There is a timeline here, and there are also layers here, right? So this layer, this layer, this layer, this is what it is, right? So look at these bars, like these are 64 in number, so you can change it to 16 or whatever. You also see this green bar right here. This is also actually a div whose length increases depending upon the position the audio is in right now, right? So I've changed certain settings for this demo, so you won't see actually it going all the way, but you can do this for sure, right? And then you can also see these animations which pop up, right? So like the rotation of the logo, the thing coming in. I think I can play this again. So yeah, look at this, right? So this is all because of these functions that I've written here in the visualize component. You see all of these functions here. So the title fading in, the logos fading in, all of this happens because of these functions that I've written here, right? So these are all the values that you give to the CSS property of that particular element. So this is basically the preview component where you can actually look at how things are and make tweaks. What I'd say is that it requires a bit of math here and there because there is a lot of calculations involved. So for once, how do you make sure that this green bar actually reaches the end when the clip ends, right? So you have to make sure you have to take the length of the clip multiplied by the number of frames, then you have to take the width of the video, like actual in pixel, and then you have to calculate or how much length should the bar increase every second, right? So there is some mathematics involved. It's not like it's not like an advanced mathematics. It's pretty simple addition, subtraction, multiplication, but it would be cool if this could actually be abstracted away. So yeah, I guess that's pretty much it about the code, I guess. Now the other thing that I want to talk about is server-side rendering that the library offers out of the box. Now since I've created this component, I'm the one who's able to export it out as an MP4 file, right? But what if there is someone else who wants to do this? Now for that you have to create a service, and then you pretty much have to run this command, which is npm run build, and this will actually run the command Remotion render, and this is not like ideal, right? So the Remotion comes with SSR, which is server-side rendering. As you can see, there is a lot to cover in this library. I've barely touched the surface. So this is how you actually server-side render it, right? So I have a server folder here which does that for me. I have a render endpoint which is post, and what you need to pass in is basically ignore all of this. What you need to pass in is the composition ID. So I've hard coded it to visualize, but you can take it from the request body. You need to actually pass in the entry point, which is index.tsx. So this will actually bundle this up, use webpack. I think this uses webpack internally to kind of bundle this up. And then like I said on the start of the video, what it basically does, it renders it in a Puppeteer instance, takes snapshots defined by the FPS, and stitches them together to form a video, right? So, and that's why you need FFmpeg installed in your system. Should you guys try this library, I would 100% suggest this. I see a lot of business value in this. Like for example, you can actually create content which is very similar, right? So if you have things which follow a template, so for example, you see all of these YouTube channels which have a very standard template, right? An image rolls in, text fades in, right? The next image rolls in, the text fades in, right? So rather than paying an editor to do that, you can just stick it in this library and this will render it for you for free, right? So I guess it has a very niche use case, but it's a very important use case that the library covers. If you guys have any other use cases in mind, do let me know in the comments below. Also, thank you for the great response that I got on the GraphQL, on the PostgreSQL GraphQL video. I think it got 1.6K and it has been, I think, around 1.5 years since I put out that video, and I got constant views on that video. So thank you guys a lot. Yeah, I guess a lot more videos are in the pipeline. I haven't been regular, I know that. I keep saying that and not putting out videos. I'll try my best. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.